Hello, wonderful person. Let me see if everything works here. Oh, it's been a while. Haven't done a stream in a long time. Okay, I think it's working. I think it's working. Let me know if you can hear me. Like a big thumbs up, maybe, or some kind of a other emoticon. Okay, I think there's a delay, so I'm not going to know for a little bit if you can hear me or not. Anyway, I'm going to assume that you hear me. Today is a big day, at least for NASA. It's actually a big day for, well, humanity in general. And I wanted to share this with you, mostly because, well, NASA is doing their own stream, and I'm actually going to be co-streaming. No, that's not the wrong. That's the wrong word here. They're not actually. Oops, sorry. They're not actually supporting me. I'm going to be totally just streaming it from them, and you can totally just join the NASA's channel, and wrong window. You can totally join the NASA's channel right here. I'm going to post it in the comments. You can just watch it directly from there. But I'm going to make some comments. I'm going to also possibly talk a little bit more about Mars. And just about the mission, because this mission is super exciting. There's a lot of things about it that I haven't covered in some of the previous videos. And honestly, it is a really big event for humanity, for NASA, and really for all of us in these somewhat challenging times. Awesome. Everyone can hear me. I love you so much, guys. Thank you for all your support. So today we're just going to talk about this. We're also going to watch what NASA is going to be presenting. But most importantly, what we're going to be doing is, it's the first time ever that NASA brought a microphone onto their landing probe. So as the probe is landing, it's actually going to be also recording sound. I'm not sure entirely what this implies just yet. We're not actually sure what's going to happen. But chances are, there's a big chance that we might actually hear what the Martian atmosphere sounds like, at least as it's landing. All right, so I'm going to try to answer some questions. There's a lot of comments. Wow, awesome. A lot of you already joined in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so first of all, what is this mission? By the way, I'm going to be using this cool software known as NASA's Eyes on Solar System. It's totally free. You can download this. You can check it out yourself. And it actually shows us in real time where the probe is located right now. You can kind of see that it just crossed the orbit of Deimos, the second moon of Mars. And it's slowly, very slowly, kind of pacing its way toward the red planet. It sort of looks like this right now. So it's there's a heat shield, there's a few solar panels on the back, and the rover itself, with the little tiny helicopter, is inside of this, and it's absolutely amazing. So this is a huge mission, and the cool thing about this mission is that, well, first of all, it's all being done in one go. Like, unlike other missions that just arrived there, unlike the Chinese mission, the Tianwen-1, it's actually not going to be orbiting Mars, and it's not going to be putting itself in orbit around the planet. It's just going to directly land onto the location known as the Jezero crater. So the thing about this crater, let me see if I can actually find it for you. Jezero crater. The thing about this crater is that apparently it's named after a tiny village in, it's this thing right here. Let me see if you can see this. Yeah, it's this thing right here. So it's named after a tiny village in, like, what country was it? Bosnia, I think. Somewhere in Eastern Europe, Central Europe. And the thing is, that particular village is now super excited about the mission. There's like a few hundred people living there. And they're like all really hyped up about this because, well, first of all, the name of the town or the village is the name of the crater. And they're hoping it's going to bring some tourism, but chances are that's not going to happen. But the important part here is the reason why this crater is named Jezero. That's actually the important part. Jezero is the, in certain European languages, in sort of Central European languages, Jezero means lake. And this here is literally a dried up lake of all sorts of rivers depositing clay and all sorts of stuff into that particular region over billions and billions of years. And that is really, really important, because if there's any evidence of life on Mars, if there's any evidence of anything interesting ever happening on Mars, especially when it was liquid, like when it had oceans and rivers, it's going to be there. It's going to be deposited there, and it's going to be stuck there for us to find. And that includes any possible life. If there is life there, it's going to be in that little Jezero lake bed. But anyway, so that's the exciting part. In other news, the mission is still not there yet. So we still have some time. I think the official landing is, or the official stream starts at 4:15 my time, so that's like in about 15 minutes. And that means that we're going to see possibly some more comments from NASA. I'm going to probably disable my face for a while. Oh, thank you so much for oh, there's already donations. I love you so much. I love your content. You're a wonderful person. Let's get to Mars. Thank you so much. Awesome as usual. You guys are awesome. All of you are awesome. And thank you for joining, by the way. So what we're going to be doing is I'm gonna talk about this, and NASA will start their stream. We're gonna watch it together, and then cross our fingers, everything goes well, and then we'll possibly just finish it up with a few more comments. Mostly because, I'm sure there will be a lot more experts from the NASA side talking about this, so I think it's probably more important to hear from them. And also, it's just interesting to see and to hear what all of the, for example, the telemetry that coming from the probe. I will probably not know what any of this means, so it will be good to hear what they tell us about it. The cool thing about the mission is that it's using a very interesting technique to land the probe. And that technique is called the sky elevator, I think. Sky elevator? I think that's it. It's basically, it kind of looks like this. That's a probe. It's going to suspend the rover. Is it not sky elevator? It's totally not sky elevator. What is it? I'm sure some of you know. It's the same way they landed the Curiosity probe. And it's basically when you take a rover and you suspend it from, there you go, like this. You suspend it from a thingamajiggy, and then you kind of just land it very nicely, gently onto the ground. And it's a very complex technique, but NASA perfected it to the point where now they're not worried about it. They're pretty sure it's going to work. Fingers crossed. And so that's what they're going to be doing with the Perseverance rover. It's going to land in a similar fashion. And I'm sure they'll have more information about us later, about all of this later. Anyway, thank you so much for the donations. Hey, what's this? Someone gave me rubles. That's awesome. Thank you for all that you are and for the great entertainment and knowledge about space and science you bring to us. You're the most wonderful person. No, you are, Marius Anderson. You are the wonderful person. Anyway, so. Where am I at? Right. So this technique is really difficult, but it has been perfected to the point where NASA now has almost no worry about it. So it's probably going to work, hopefully. Whereas when it comes to the other mission, the Chinese Tianwen mission, that's going to be the kind of exciting part to see if their technique works, because they're going to be landing in a different way. And also they're using a very, very different algorithm. Everything's different. They're basing all of their experience on what they did on the moon. And so that landing is going to be happening in March after they essentially orbit the Mars a few times, set up their lander for the eventual reentry, and then they're going to be landing their first. They're going to try to land on the first attempt. The thing is, we know that Mars has 47% success chance when it comes to landings. A lot of failures on Mars, so there's a lot of things stacked against China right now. So we don't know what's going to happen. But we'll see. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about. Oh, okay. Do you think that the first humans going there are doomed because of the solar radiation? How do you think they will manage to survive? This is from Georgy Yordanov. Okay, so my opinion is that, first of all, it's going to be really hard to get any approval from any government to launch humans on a suicide mission. That's going to be almost impossible to do. At least, unless you're China. In the US, there are a lot of regulations that are going to prevent this. And you can basically be, you can be sued for murder if like Elon Musk decides to send people there with no consultation of any kind. Even if you sort of submit your own willing decision to go there, it's not going to happen probably. So if we go there, there has to be a way for humans to return. That has to be like absolutely guaranteed. And so once SpaceX works out how to return people from Mars, then they'll probably have a chance to send someone there. Now that's my opinion, at least. That's based on what I know about the law and regulations. I don't know if they're going to be able to find a way around it. Maybe they'll actually move everything to another country where laws are a little bit less, what's the word? Severe. But anyway, but to answer the question is, yes, there are going to be a lot of deaths on Mars if people go there. Radiation is not as big of a deal, but I mean, it is a big deal, but we're talking about years. Before that, within the first year, I'm sure something bad will happen. And mostly because you're living in a completely new environment. There's going to be psychological problems. There's going to be problems with things breaking down, air, water. There's so many things that can go wrong. And that living on Mars is not an easy thing to do. I mean, we have a lot of experience with people living in Antarctica. And even there, when things break, things go really bad. And you have air, you have water around you, so that's not as bad of a situation. Whereas Mars is a completely different beast. So in that sense, yeah, there's going to be fatalities. We just don't really know if it's going to be, from what and how. But also chances are it will probably take at least a few decades before we even get there. We're still really, really far from there. Anyway, thank you so much for all of your donations. I love you so much. Oh, someone, Wuxendering is telling me I'm wonderful. And you are wonderful as well. More wonderful than me, I bet. I'm not that wonderful. I just talk. All I do is talk. All right. So how is the NASA thing going? Have they started yet? Nope. We're still waiting. All right. Let's look at some Mars here. Martian pictures. Actually, let's take a look at where the probe is located right now. Still slowly moving toward the planet. This will probably take a while. Yeah, I have to zoom out a lot here to see where we're located. Okay, so it's between. It's kind of closer to Phobos orbit right now, but not that far. Not that close yet. Still far. Anyway, so one more thing I wanted to mention is there's been a lot of papers on Mars coming out in the last few days, and there are going to be a few videos posted in the next, I think, week or so. And in case you're not going to watch them, quick summary. So one thing we discovered is that a lot of the Martian atmosphere, as it was sort of escaping, let me see if I can maybe do it from this side. As it was escaping the Martian surface over the billions of years, it most likely deposited itself onto the surface of Phobos, because Phobos is always facing with the same side toward Mars. And so there's a lot of stuff here that the Japanese mission is going to be trying to recover in the next few years. I don't remember the exact date, but they're going to be launching a probe to take a chunk of this and bring it back to Earth in the same way that they did with asteroids. And we know Japan can totally do this. They have a lot of experience. So there's going to be a really exciting mission where we'll be able to collect some of the samples of ancient Martian atmosphere from the surface of Phobos and basically bring it back home. And that's going to be super, super fun. It will happen sometime in the next 5 years, I think. I think they're planning to launch it maybe in a couple of years. I don't exactly remember. Okay, someone suggested we should make Mars a penal colony like Australia. Yeah, that would actually, that's sort of kind of a lot of science fiction usually works, right? You usually have this inhospitable planet that becomes a penal colony and then something goes wrong there. But that would be a very, very expensive penal colony. Also, the reason, I believe the reason England used to send, pardon me, used to send a lot of prisoners to Australia. Well, first of all, it's because of lack of space, but also because it wasn't really expensive at all. It was really cheap. They sort of put them on boats that already were headed somewhere. So in that sense, it didn't cost them anything to basically drop them off on different islands. In that sense, if we have an active industry going to Mars, I'm sure we can bring a lot of things, not including prisoners. Also, I generally just disagree with the idea of penalizing people for misbehaving. That's just not part of my education. I always believe that, you know, you probably have a better chance of improving someone's behavior if you sort of do it through a proactive approach, not a penalizing approach. So penalty is not really the best solution here. But you can definitely send people that are interested in going, although chances are still far from that. Okay, okay. Kanish Singh suggested that I make more long videos. It's really funny about the long videos. Some people love them and some people really hate them. And I usually do them when I either am away for a few weeks or if I need to do something. Like the other day, I actually had to do a few medical tests, and this took a week. And because of this, I basically had a whole week of long videos planned. And so usually that's when I do them. But I'll try to improvise. I'm really planning to start more streaming soon. I've set up the system now. It seems to work pretty well. The only problem is I keep having trouble finding time. Like right now, it's actually 4 a.m. for me. I had to stay awake because I really wanted to see what's going to happen with the Martian mission. And I know for you guys, it's like 3 p.m. for most of you. And so because of this, there's the time constraints. All right, PBS Spacetime. Yeah, I love that channel. PBS Spacetime is something I was watching about 8 years ago. And I think they kind of gave me a lot of ideas on how to start this channel as well. Not by talking to me, obviously, just by showing me what they were doing. And yeah, great channel. Anyway, oh, one more thing. So some of you might have noticed that there was a new link to Amazon on some of the videos. And this is totally, it's not really a promotion, but it is a promotion. Basically, I'm not getting paid, and the book is really cheap. But I collaborated with a few science fiction writers, and the collaboration is between me and like 14 different writers. And we all kind of pitched in, and everyone contributed a little bit. Most of the writers are professional science fiction writers. I'm just a guy on YouTube, and I wrote the foreword for it. The thing I'm talking about is basically... let me see if I can find it. Let's go to Amazon. It's called Mars Anthology. It's all about Mars. We're basically trying to celebrate the Martian landing through this book right here. So the main author is Bill Patterson and Felix Savage. I'm gonna say Savage. I've never talked to him, so don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce it, Felix. There's a few really, really cool authors here, and these stories are actually pretty amazing. It's a short story collection. It's really, really awesome. It's like $3, I think. And basically, it's an anthology of Mars. And the whole purpose is to celebrate this amazing landing that's going to happen in a few minutes. So if you do like science fiction, check it out. Other than that, in other news, let's actually maybe talk a little bit about the mission as well, because I believe the stream hasn't started yet. No, hasn't started yet. So what we know about the mission is that it has 4 main... why am I... Oh, do I sound weird? Someone said I sound weird. I wonder if my microphone is not working well. I actually use a different microphone for streaming. Anyway, I'll figure it out later. I'll review the stream and see how it sounds like later. Anyway, I'm so sorry if the sound is not good. I didn't really test this thoroughly. Anyway, thank you so much for all your support. I really, really love everyone joining in. And I'm so glad that many of you love the content. I love sharing this. This is like hobby becoming dream, becoming a profession. Still a little bit difficult, but I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to improve a little bit, trying to get it done. All right, so yeah, what I needed to talk to you about is the main purpose of this mission. So why we landed in this crater. And I need to sneak a peek here. So the main reason they chose this location is one of the main reasons is obviously to look for possible signs of life. They're also going to be actually collecting samples, and not just collecting them, but the purpose of the mission is to... Oh,
As the countdown
It's
to
started.
Mars continues, the perseverance of humanity launching the next generation of...
Okay, I'm going to disable this for a second. I just want to finish my thought. Right, so they're going to be storing the samples. They're going to be caching the samples onto the probe and keeping them there for about 10 years until the next mission from NASA is going to launch and basically collect them. So it's a two-part mission. And this was really, really hard to pitch for NASA back in the days because it's a very expensive endeavor. You know, you're sending two like multi-billion missions. They have to depend on each other. And because of that, it's hard to basically come up with the funding. But they did it, and it looks like they managed to pull through all the funding. And now we have enough money to basically launch this and also possibly the second part as well. So we'll see how it goes. The retrieval mission is going to happen in 2030, so like in about 10 to maybe 12 years from now. We're all going to be much older, and lives will have changed by then. So I'm going to actually switch to this in a few seconds. I just want to quickly finish one more thought. So we have looking for life. We have caching. We also the other part is preparing for human, I guess settlers in a sense, colonists, but also just human scientists to arrive and to essentially make sure that you have all of the details collected. You know exactly what's happening. You know exactly what you need to bring with you, and most importantly, you test the soil for water, for presence of other materials, so that essentially when the scientists arrive to this location in possibly about 20 years, everything will be kind of ready to go. And lastly, we have looking for biosignatures. So the purpose is to also try to find actual life on Mars, if it exists. Right now, we don't really know where to even look for it, but that's one of the purposes of this mission. So anyway, let's see what NASA has to say. I'm going to disable my camera for maybe a few minutes. I believe the actual landing is not happening yet. Where are we? This, by the way, is really accurate. So this shows us exactly where the probe is right now. So I think this is still about maybe 20 minutes to go. Still pretty far. But we're going to see what NASA has. Okay, clean feed. What does that mean?
Audio. También tenemos un programa.
Oh, it's in Spanish. All right, we'll come back in a few seconds. I really wanted to focus on the sort of the details and the technical parts of this mission, mostly because, you know, I'll probably cover the basics in one of the videos next week. But for now, let's just see when they start streaming the important stuff. I really want to see the important stuff. All right, cool, very cool. Any questions? Let's see what we have. Cool, very cool. Okay. I'm catching up to the comments here. Wow, there's a lot of stuff I have to read through. Oh wow, I just realized a lot of comments have actually been censored by YouTube. One of them was about, okay, I probably shouldn't really talk about this, but someone is mentioning killing a child on Mars. That's a little bit gruesome. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, murder will happen. Murder happens anywhere you go. We just don't know when and how. All right, then there's another. Okay, there's some Bulgarian here. I don't really know what it says. I think it says hello. I don't speak Bulgarian, so I don't really know what it means. One of the most asked questions on the channel, like literally, I get it asked like pretty much every week, is, "Are you Bulgarian?" And I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm so sorry, but no. I know there's a soccer player with the same name as me, exactly the same name, and he's pretty popular in Bulgaria. We are not the same person, not the same culture, very, very different. Yeah, I am. Many people ask me, so what's with the accent then? It's very common in parts of Canada for certain locations to have a very strong accent. Mine is from Montreal, part of Montreal where a lot of people have a strong English accent. So yeah, so there's that. Montreal. I'm a Montreal child. And okay, I think this is probably maybe interesting. So maybe let's listen to that. I'm going to switch to this and turn my camera off for a few minutes. I'll see you soon. Don't go anywhere.
Can you let us know how that affects the information you are seeing?
So Mars is about 127 million miles from Earth right now. That means it takes about 11 minutes from light to travel from Mars to Earth. So all the information that we receive from Perseverance actually happened 11 minutes ago. So the round trip is 22 minutes for us to send a command to Perseverance and hear back on the ground that she's received that command. This is what we call two-way light time.
That's good to know. And can you tell us who else is in the room with you right now?
The operations team is split into two different areas. Here in the cruise mission support area, we have primarily the team that has been flying Perseverance from Earth to Mars. You'll see the placards with the roles of each of the people by their stations. Some of the people you may hear talking today are the flight director, who is the conductor of our operations orchestra here, the entry, descent, and landing activity lead, who is a member of the landing team tasked with understanding the execution of entry, descent, and landing, and then also the telecommunications and entry, descent, and landing communications engineers who will be monitoring the signal from Perseverance through the different paths that we have. Upstairs, in what we call the war room, we have almost the entire entry, descent, and landing operations team. And then across the hall from them, we have the surface mission control room, where the surface operations team is ready and waiting to take over as soon as Perseverance's wheels touch the ground.
And you have been part of this mission for years now. Can you tell us what have you been working on?
I've been working on Perseverance for almost 8 years now as a guidance, navigation, and control engineer, working primarily on entry, descent, and landing. One of my big tasks was to help with terrain relative navigation. Perseverance will be the first mission to fly terrain relative navigation. So while she's descending on the parachute, she'll actually be looking at the ground with a camera, seeing where she is with respect to the Martian surface, and choosing a safe spot to land that she can get to. After so many years of working on the mission, it's an honor to be here today as the mission commentator.
We're happy to have you here. Thanks, Swati. We'll be checking back in with you in just a few minutes as Perseverance approaches its next milestone. But for now, let's learn more about the rover's mission once it lands on Mars.
You know, Mars is the closest place that we can reach with robotic exploration that we think had a really good chance of having ancient life.
The Perseverance rover will land at a location called Jezero Crater. Jezero Crater is a very interesting place. It's a crater that once held a lake.
There are a lot of craters on the surface of Mars that could have once hosted ancient lakes, but not every crater that we think had a lake actually preserves evidence that that lake was there.
It had an inflow channel and it had an outflow channel. That means it was filled. The crater was filled with water.
In Jezero, we have probably one of the most beautifully preserved delta deposits on Mars in that crater.
This is a wonderful place to live for microorganisms, and it is also a wonderful place for those microorganisms to be preserved so that we can find them now so many billions of years later.
There is no other place on Mars that has the unique combination of a lake setting, a beautifully preserved delta, and the diverse mineralogy that we have in Jezero Crater. So it's truly a special landing site.
The major goal of the Perseverance mission is to investigate astrobiology on Mars, and in particular, to address the question of whether life ever existed on Mars. The Perseverance rover starts with a design that's very similar to Curiosity. We've added to it a whole new set of science instruments, and these science instruments were purposefully selected to help us in the search for biosignatures.
We're going to be taking microphones with us. For the first time, we're going to have that human sense on another planet.
Perseverance carries with her a grand experiment in spacefaring technology, a helicopter, the name of which is now Ingenuity.
One of the major upgrades that Perseverance has from Curiosity is that it's able to self-drive for a distance of up to 200 meters per day. As the rover is driving, it's literally building the map of the road it's driving on Mars.
Scientists for years have told us that to really unlock the secrets of Mars, we have to bring samples from Mars back to Earth.
So what Mars 2020 is going to do is to drill samples, put them in small tubes. We're going to seal it in its own individual tube. We set them on the surface to provide a target for the second two missions, which hopefully will get in development in the next several years and could potentially get the samples back to Earth by 2031.
Perseverance is a very, very profound first step in both our understanding of our place in the universe and a stepping stone towards human exploration on Mars.
You are watching live Mars landing commentary, and Perseverance is about to reach another important milestone. Swati, can you tell us what is happening?
We are at a milestone where the operations team determines whether they're ready to turn off the transmitter to Perseverance. Turning off the transmitter is like taking your hands off of the wheel. At this point forward, Perseverance would be on her own to execute entry, descent, and landing over 500,000 lines of code. Let's listen in.
Okay, so I think something's happening here. I'm not sure where the video is. Let's see. Let me see if I can reload this maybe.
Off the transmitter to Perseverance.
All right. I think they're also having connection troubles, mostly because a lot of people are watching their stream. Anyway, so the one thing I forgot to mention is obviously the helicopter. That's the big one, by the way. The helicopter is exciting for one reason. The purpose of that particular mission is just to see if it's possible to fly on Mars using the helicopter blades as opposed to, using rocket engines. And it was tested on Earth. There's actually an amazing video that I think it was either Vsauce or who was it? Someone made one of the bigger science YouTubers made an amazing video about it, and it is a video about Mars helicopter. Let's find out. I'll post it in the comments. And basically, they tested it so thoroughly that they know for a fact it should work. But the problem is now we just have to make sure that it can fly in real life, because we don't know if we didn't. Maybe something was miscalculated, maybe something was not entirely processed correctly, but it should technically work. And it spins its blades like 3,000 times per minute, I think, and it's extremely, extremely powerful in terms of the actual propellant, the actual propellers. But it's not particularly useful for scientific purposes, mostly because it only has a camera on it. It doesn't have any other sensors, it doesn't have anything. So it's only going to fly around a little bit, take some pictures, land. So in that sense, it's actually one of the most expensive parts of this mission because it does not have much to offer, but it is a cool experiment. Veritasium, thank you so much. It's Veritasium. He made an amazing video about it. Oh, hey, someone's talking. Okay, let's get back to this. I'll be right back in a few seconds.
To a robotic geologist and astrobiologist collecting samples that we will bring back to Earth. And for us, of course, those are where the best laboratories are of all of humanity. Some of them still remain to be explored by some that are not yet in the science community yet. And that's what we're looking forward to. It's that new phase. The other element that I want to talk about is the amazing technologies that are there. And of course, one of my favorites is the Ingenuity helicopter, this in search of this extraterrestrial Wright brothers moment, controlled flight for the first time elsewhere, Raquel.
Great. And we have a student question on video for you from Macy.
Hi, my name is Macy Ragsdale. My question is anything alive on Mars? Thank you.
Well, Macy, I'm so glad for your question. It's a question I ask myself. Is anything alive there? And frankly, at the surface where we're going right now with Perseverance, we do not believe there's anything alive right there because of the radiation that's there. It's chilling cold and there's really no water there. But guess what? We think that 3 billion years ago, this looked like a stream that you may see on Earth. And frankly, a lot more similar than Earth, with water with a magnetic field, just like the Earth with an atmosphere. And the question is, at that time, 3 billion years ago, were there single-cell organisms, just of the type that developed on Earth? So is there life on Mars overall? We don't know. But where we're going right now, we're really looking for ancient life. And that's what we're so excited about.
Thank you for your time today, Thomas. And thanks to everyone who has been using the hashtag Countdown to Mars. Here are some of the photos that you've sent in so far. Let's take a look. Now, please keep sharing with us how you are watching this moment today. For now, let's go back to Swati for an important update to what's going on in mission control as we get closer to another milestone.
Hi, Raquel. This next milestone is a communications pole. So during landing, not only will Perseverance talk directly to Earth, but we'll also be talking to 2 spacecraft that are currently orbiting Mars, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and the MAVEN spacecraft. This poll is to confirm with the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter spacecraft and the MAVEN spacecraft teams that they are ready and on track to support the relay from Perseverance. Let's listen in.
EDL flight.
Go flight.
Have you performed the comm check and readiness of the orbiters?
We have performed the voice check and the readiness poll and can confirm that MRO, MAVEN, EDA, Radio Science 1 and 2, UHF, DTE, CSN, and EDL GDS are all ready to support.
Copy, EDL comm.
So we've just heard that we have confirmation from each of the different orbiters and all of their support equipment on the ground that they are ready and are on track to support the relay from Perseverance.
Great. Thank you, Swati. And we just heard that communications readiness poll, which means we are ready to relay the data Perseverance will send to get a better idea of what the rover looks like as it approaches Mars. We have a NASA program called EYES. The visualization lets anyone watching track Perseverance. Here's how the program works.
Follow Perseverance on its journey to the surface of the red planet with eyes on the solar system.
Okay, well, that's kind of what I'm using here right now. By the way, like I said before, it's totally free to download. You can go and get it yourself. It also works in a browser, but I personally prefer to use it on the computer. We're much closer now. Definitely much closer. Now, the thing about EYES on the solar system is that it's not actually going to obviously show you the actual landing, but it'll be interesting to see what happens to this probe once it actually goes inside Mars. I guess it probably just crashes. Anyway, long story short, we are going to have a lot of exciting things coming in the next few minutes, but you might know that there's going to be this period known as the 7 minutes of doom, as they're called. There's a period as the probe enters the Martian atmosphere and as it kind of goes through the Martian atmosphere, where it's basically impossible to communicate with the probe and where it's impossible to mostly do anything. So we're not going to know anything for 7 minutes. From what I heard about the some of the NASA scientists, it's one of the most stressful experiences they usually have, especially the ones working on the mission. So in that sense, it's going to be interesting to see how they react to all of this. But the once you actually land, though, once you receive the confirmation of the landing, that's when they all sort of get the sense of relief. They start cheering and clapping and so on. We got the famous videos from I think 2 years ago when the InSight probe landed, and that was a huge achievement for NASA as well. Anyway, oh yeah, 7 minutes of hell it's also known as that, or maybe it is known as that. Did I make a mistake? I probably made a mistake. As you probably know, I make a lot of mistakes when I talk, mostly because my brain and my mouth have trouble communicating, and I usually have to correct them afterwards. Anyway, hello, greetings from Brazil. Greetings from South Korea. Awesome. Cool. So let me see if there's any questions I should be answering. Otherwise, I actually wanted to talk a little bit more about the probe as well, what it has on it, in terms of the different devices. We can take a look at some of the cool things that it has going on it. Now, you know, most people don't realize is that a typical probe is actually really, really complex. Kind of looks like this. And as you can see from this image, it's also basically multicultural. A lot of things here are produced by different countries, different teams from different countries. So it's a very international collaboration. It's not just NASA. Like, it's very unfair calling this a NASA mission because a lot of the stuff came from other countries. But you know, we have some really cool cameras here. There's like 19 different cameras in total. There is a lot of really cool experiments. There's one called MOXIE, which is going to be testing the ability for us to generate oxygen on Mars from CO2. And there's also what else is there? There's a radar to try to test the ground underneath the probe. There's an X-ray scanner that's going to be sampling various, well, basically collecting samples and then scanning them using X-rays just to determine different types of fluorescence. It's called X-ray fluorescence spectrometer. It basically determines what the things are made out of by shining X-rays on them. There is a really, really cool camera called SuperCam, and I believe it's right here. And this is not just a typical camera like what we use on our phones, for example. It's actually, it's a spectrometer camera, meaning that by looking at something, it gets different spectra of different light from this particular object, and it's able to determine exactly what this object is made out of by just looking at it. It's a pretty, really cool camera. It's one of the most advanced cameras ever produced. And then we also have, it's called SuperCam because it's super. And it also has a plaque with like 10 million names on it, including my name and names of my family members. You probably remember NASA had this thing going on where you could put your name on it and they give you a little like e-ticket confirming that your name is going to be sent to Mars. It was apparently etched in very, very, very tiny letters onto this really tiny piece of, I think it's like a plastic or something. And all of the names are etched on there, including some of the essays and poems of some of the people that were selected by NASA. And it's a pretty cool sort of symbolic thing, but obviously doesn't have any scientific purpose. And the other thing that it has on it, it has a few ultraviolet scanners as well. Basically, there's a lot of stuff, as you can see. But most importantly, though, it's just it's an improvement of the previous missions. It's a huge improvement from the Curiosity mission, for example. It has a lot of new components, a lot of things that were built on top of the previous mistakes. Like, for example, the wheels are much better, much stronger now, because the biggest problem with the previous mission was the wheels. And so, in that sense, it's definitely a huge improvement. I gotta make sure I don't miss. Yeah, okay. I gotta make sure we don't miss the landing. Just making sure that the stream is still not showing anything important. Okay, cool. Very good. Let's do some questions. Farsight, thank you for your work. I wish ESA could do more cool stuff like this. It's always NASA. I think ESA is catching up. They're actually, the problem with ESA is that, you know, it's a very decentralized sort of organization in a sense. And because of this, there's no one person that can sort of dictate who's going to do what. And because of that, it's very difficult for them. And Hugo says, it's a multicultural probe. Really cool quote to hear. Yeah, it's definitely it's a cool concept, especially in these insane times. Someone says they've never seen me that excited before. I'm actually usually really excited before I start making videos. But the thing is, making content, especially like, if you do it every day, it does become very, very challenging emotionally. So it's very difficult to get excited every time. There's some YouTubers, like usually the ones that play Minecraft, that they get always so excited every episode. But then you actually look at them in real life, and it really takes a toll on their self-being, in a sense. And I don't want that to affect me. So because of this, I prefer to take it easy. I don't want to get too excited about certain things. If I were to get excited every single video, I would burn out in a year. Someone says, I love my wonderful person t-shirt. Me too. I've had this for like a year and a half now. It's surprisingly a pretty good t-shirt. Not a promotion, just saying. And there's going to be a new one coming out maybe in a few months. I'm going to change the design finally. But this one will turn out pretty cool. Thank you. Sarah says, thank you for sharing your knowledge and what? And kindness so generously. No, thank you, Sarah, for joining in, for receiving the knowledge. Okay, how are we doing here? Day on Mars is about 40 minutes longer than a day on Earth. Okay, cool fact. Am I going to be doing streams of rocket launches? I did before, in a few years ago. The thing about the rocket launches is that you really have to know enough about the rockets to be able to sort of effectively communicate what's going on. And I think, people like Scott Manley do a much better job at that than I do. His whole hobby is rocketry. And yeah, oh, there's a slow mode. How do I do that? Someone said turn on the slow mode. I don't know how to do that. Where's the slow mode? The chat is really fast. I'm having trouble reading it. I wish I knew where that was. Anyway, well, I'll figure out for next stream. How about that? I'll have to work on this a little bit. Someone is asking me about this game that came out called Dyson Sphere Program. I haven't really played it this long, this far yet, but here's a thing that I wanted to mention. I mentioned previously I wanted to do streaming, and I wanted to do streaming of some video games, actually. Some of you know that this channel did start kind of like Scott Manley's channel. It started as a video game channel, and I used to love doing this, but then slowly moved towards science, hard science, and eventually I just wanted to do both. And I still play games on the side, but I figured I might as well do it on the stream. So I might stream this game maybe in the next month or so. It's an interesting game, definitely a lot of interesting concepts, but it's not very scientific in a sense. It does have a lot of liberties when it comes to science fiction. So in that sense, it's interesting, but I personally prefer Factorio, mostly because it's sort of it's a little bit more addictive. It's a little bit more simple, but it's also a little bit more difficult. And also I have a T-shirt with Factorio on it, and so I'm invested into Factorio more than I am into the Dyson Sphere Program. Go to chat settings, click slow mode. Chat settings, where is chat settings? Okay. I don't know what the settings are for the chat. You guys know more than me. Okay. I swear YouTube one day is gonna drive me crazy. Oh, is it here? Oh, I found it! Ha! I found it. Thank you so much. Thank you kindly for telling me that this exists. Wait, why does it not work? It doesn't let me save it. I don't know. What? Okay, it doesn't let me save it. Maybe it's already because it's already on. Darn it. Okay. Maybe it is on. I don't know. I'll figure this out for next stream for sure. Anyway, so I actually want to see what they're saying right now. Let's just turn this on for a second.
This, in fact, is my 5th Mars rover mission, and I'm not alone. There's other people on the project in the same situation. So, the team has given it everything they've gotten to.
Okay. So very cool. I want to focus on science right now. Opinions and history is great. However, let's talk science. What else do we know about the mission? We know that the mission cost the total of $2.75 billion. That's a very expensive mission, which is why it was actually very difficult for NASA to get the money for this. One cool thing about this is that it was in planning for like, I think almost 8 years, and almost everyone thought it's not going to work, but in the end they managed to pull through and get the funding for it. Also, there is an interesting geocaching trackable inside the probe that was attached there as a kind of a fun fact. You probably know what geocaching is. It's when you hide something on Earth and then other people try to find it. They possibly take a piece out of it and then put their own piece in there. Then they leave it for someone else to find. So someone did that, but now it's on the Martian probe. So if ever there's anyone who's into geocaching that visits Mars, they'll have something exciting to find there. We don't really know what it is. I actually don't know what it is, but yeah, it's something interesting. Maybe one day we'll find out what it is inside. Okay, yeah. So Chinese probe. So the Chinese probe is already orbiting Mars. It's not really performing the same maneuver though. So once again, if I go to the simulation here, the NASA's probe, and this is actually what NASA discovered over the past a few decades doing this mission, doing these types of missions, that is, it's much more efficient and also much less troublesome to basically have the probe directly land on Mars without doing the orbits first. The Chinese mission, what it's going to be doing is basically, let's zoom out of here. Let's see if we can maybe come a little bit farther. It's basically now kind of doing what Maven there is doing. It's orbiting Mars, and it's eventually going to choose the location to land and then slowly make its way toward Mars and then land there. That, however, is going to be really troublesome. It's more troublesome than the NASA's mission, and NASA has more experience in this, so chances for the failure is currently much higher for the Chinese mission. All right, cool. Someone says we have 5 times more viewers than NASA. That's not true. They had like almost 1 million, I think. Didn't they? Yeah, there's 800,000 people watching it. I'm really excited, actually. It's great news. I mean, the fact that space exploration and also various space missions are becoming popular again, that's pretty exciting. Cool. Okay. People keep asking, why do I sound different on the stream? It's most likely because my actual microphone that I use for recording is right here, and my streaming microphone is this tiny, cheap one I bought right here. I think there's probably inconsistency in the microphone quality. I'm also using a different mixer for this. And to be honest, I haven't played with the settings yet, so it's probably using default settings. Okay, cool. So a lot of exciting things happening. Let's maybe listen a little bit, see what they're saying.
Thank you so much to you, Katie, for joining us. That was so great.
Thank you.
Now sending it back over to you, Raquel.
Thanks, Marina. Earlier, we were able to catch up with the communications systems engineer, Chloe Sakier. She helps us break down the system used to track Perseverance during landing.
The communications infrastructure supporting Perseverance's landing is quite complex. We've rallied a truly global network of relay and communications assets to help us capture and record those precious minutes of entry, descent, and landing, or EDL. We receive a stream of engineering telemetry via these communication assets that helps us see and understand exactly what's happening. Perseverance sends direct-to-Earth X-band tones, each of which provides us with indications of critical entry, descent, and landing events. During entry, descent, and landing, we have 2 Mars orbiters listening for the ultra-high frequency, or UHF, signals from Perseverance. These orbiters relay these signals to deep space network stations on Earth, Madrid in Spain, and Goldstone in California. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, or MRO, has reconfigured its software to perform a type of relay called bent pipe. This will provide us with near real-time telemetry during entry, descent, and landing. We have coverage from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter from just before entry to a few minutes after landing. The telemetry we receive will be delayed by the time it takes light to travel from Mars to us back on Earth. Additionally, the Mars Atmosphere and Volatile Evolution spacecraft, or MAVEN, is recording these UHF signals and will be relaying that recording hours after landing. MAVEN will be covering us from around the time of cruise stage separation until a few minutes after landing. We also receive what we call heartbeat tones, which are indications that the spacecraft is alive and progressing throughout entry, descent, and landing. It's important to note that while unexpected, we could lose our communication links and still land safely. Because Perseverance is doing entry, descent, and landing completely autonomously, she doesn't need our help to joystick the landing. The communication links give us added visibility.
And you can see Chloe hard at work inside Mission Control right now. Perseverance's landing might look like the system the Curiosity rover used back in 2012. But landing on Mars is difficult. There's always a risk involved. Here's what needs to happen for Perseverance to touch down safely in Jezero Crater.
Nothing can be taken for granted when you get to Mars. There's a lot of things we just don't know.
Space always has a way of throwing us curveballs and surprising us.
I mean, until we get the data that says we're on the ground safely, I'm going to be worried that we're not going to make it.
Entry, descent, and landing is often referred to as the 7 minutes of terror because it takes about 7 minutes to get from the top of the atmosphere of Mars to the ground safely.
The spacecraft has to do all of this by itself.
There are many things that have to go right to get Perseverance onto the ground safely.
There's a lot counting on this. This is the first leg of our sample return relay race. There's a lot of work on the line.
Starting about 10 minutes before atmospheric entry, we get rid of really the spacecraft part of the rover that's been supporting us.
We come screaming in to the Martian atmosphere at 12 to 13,000 miles per hour.
And the heat shield is what dissipates all that initial energy through friction.
The vehicle will continue actually flying itself through the atmosphere. It's sort of like a transforming vehicle that went from a spacecraft and now it's kind of like an aircraft actively guiding itself.
When we're going slow enough, we deploy a parachute.
It's the biggest supersonic parachute we've ever sent to another planet. It's critical for slowing down the vehicle.
Perseverance's entry, descent, and landing borrows heavily from that of Curiosity.
But fundamentally, Perseverance is a different rover. She's bigger, she has different instruments.
We've added a lot of smarts on the inside to make it more capable so that it can deal with the landing site that we've given.
The science team identified Jezero Crater as basically an ancient lake bed and one of the most promising places to look for evidence of ancient microbial life and to collect samples for future return to Earth. The problem is it's a much more hazardous place to land.
When you look at Jezero, all you see is danger. How do we go to a site that we never thought was safe enough to go to before? So the heat shield, which has protected us all the way through entry, is no longer necessary. We need to get that off so that we can actually see the ground. And we can see the ground in a couple different ways.
Perseverance will be the first mission to use terrain relative navigation. So while it's descending on the parachute, it will actually be taking images of the surface of Mars and determining where to go based on what it sees. This is finally like landing with your eyes open. Having this new technology really allows Perseverance to land in much more challenging terrain than Curiosity or any previous Mars mission could. Amongst the rocks and the craters and the cliffs, these things are hazardous to the rover, but these are the things that are interesting to the scientists.
Once Perseverance has figured out where she is, we jettison the back shell and parachute and light up our rockets. Those rockets help us steer to a safe landing spot that's nearby.
That descent stage takes us all the way down to about 20 meters off the ground.
That's when we start the sky cannon. Once the rover has hit the ground, the descent stage will cut loose from the rover and fly away to a safe distance. But surviving that 7 minutes is really just the beginning for Perseverance. Its job, right, being the first leg of sample return, to go look for those signs of past life on Mars. All that can't start until we get Perseverance safely to the ground. And then that's when the real mission begins.
All right, so that was basically a pretty good summary, I think. And hello, wonderful person, whoever you are joining in just now. I think a lot of people just joined in as well. Pretty exciting. Definitely super, super scary for the scientists on the ground right now waiting for all of this. But yeah, it's 7 minutes of terror. I totally called it wrong again. I found this really cool summary of what actually is going to be going on. I think let's see if we can move it here. Yeah, there we go. Kind of looks like this. So let's see if we can go through this together. So that's basically the 7 minutes. You know, you start with the upper cruising stage, and then as it slowly approaches, the heat shield engages. It decelerates dramatically. The parachute, as they mentioned, the most powerful parachute ever used, is going to get deployed, slow down to the point where it's going to release the heat shield. And then it's going to start using its very interesting radar lock to try to locate where it's positioned. So basically, the cool part about the mission, this particular mission, is that it has this active technology to try to find out precisely where it's located based on what we know about the topography of Mars. And then if it finds itself in a different location, it's going to sort of move a little bit and possibly readjust its position in order to land in just the right spot. And this is going to be very important, especially if you're going to be sending, you know, a retrieval mission there. If you're going to be sending a, I don't know, like a actual colonist at some point. If you land them, let's say 100 miles away from the spot, they're not going to survive. So you have to make sure that the precision landing part is also mastered as well. And so that's what they're trying to do in this particular part. They're going to be precisely mapping. Okay, you can't really see it. I'm totally hiding this with my face here. They're going to be precisely mapping the landing part until the last part with the power descent. And this is when it engages the engines. And at some point, in the end, here we go. At some point, it's going to have the sky crane. And the sky crane is going to let the rover descend. And then that thing, the upper part, I guess the rocket part, just flies away and crashes somewhere else. So it's a pretty exciting mission, but this is not the first time it's been done, and so in that sense, it's definitely not something that NASA doesn't know how to do. But they are definitely the ones who have perfected this particular technique quite dramatically. Anyway, moving on. Let's see. I missed so many comments. When is the landing? It's a good question. We can only estimate. I mean, I'm sure NASA knows the exact time, but the probe is currently right here. So we are currently, let's see where we are. I need to zoom out again. This is one problem with this application that NASA has, that it doesn't have very good UI. Okay, we're at almost at the orbit of Phobos. So I would say we still have good 20 minutes maybe-ish, I think, around so. And then once it reaches this part, I think that's when it cuts off the communication. But yeah, so that is the mission in a nutshell. Very exciting mission. Super important mission for NASA because, I mean, you know, a lot of things are riding on this. Here's the thing though, if this fails, this might actually be a huge, huge step backwards for the entire NASA program. There's a huge chance that lots of funding might be lost. And the thing is, funding has already been sort of slowly taken away from the space exploration from NASA itself for the past, I would say, 2 decades. Every single year, NASA has been getting like 0.1%, or actually, sorry, no, around 1% less funding than the year before. And so it's a constant decrease. It's more in terms of the actual amount of money, but it's not more in terms of the percentage of the funding. And so because of this, especially because of the inflation, they've actually been losing money for the past, well, several decades, really. Anywho, does the rocket landing thing have any use afterwards? I am sure, first of all, it has a good name. It totally escaped my mind. I guess they call it the sky part of the crane. Anyway, so that part does not have any use. It just crashes. It literally becomes leftovers. Anyway, cool. What are my views about Indian Space Agency? What are views about ISRO and NASA, SpaceX collaborate for something big? Well, honestly, collaborating with SpaceX in general is not actually very easy, mostly because it's a private company and it runs on its own rules. And most governments have their own regulations. So, for example, you probably know that a few weeks ago, SpaceX already got in trouble for basically crashing the rocket too hard and for exploding the rocket without proper permissions. So stuff like this, especially when it comes to regulations about, air travel, explosions, testing, every country has different laws. And so collaborating together is always difficult because of this. And so I actually have really, really high hopes for Indian Space Agency. I just don't really know if collaboration is anything that's going to be happening anytime soon, mostly because, well, there's just too many possible constraints right now. There is just so many things to overcome, including the fact that, distances, cultural problems, language barrier. Obviously, a lot of people in India speak English, but there's still a lot of cultural language. That's something that, American English versus British English versus Indian English don't have in common. So in that sense, I would love to see a collaboration. I just don't think it's on any horizon yet. NASA and SpaceX will definitely have their collaborations going for the next few decades. But there's still going to be so many things that SpaceX has to deal with in terms of regulations. As a private company, they can do whatever they want, but by doing certain things, they can get in serious trouble and lose a lot of money because of this. Especially if you explode something in the wrong location and suddenly get sued for that. Anywho. Okay, so I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious what she's saying, actually. Let me just turn this on for a second.
She has to be the smartest and most capable rover we've ever sent.
Speaking of Perseverance, can you tell us more about how Perseverance is smarter than its predecessors?
Yes, we've made a lot of upgrades to help her along with the surface mission. One of them is for her autonomous traverse capability. When I say autonomous traverse, I mean we tell her where we want her to end up, and she has to figure out the safe and best way to get there. In order to do that, she uses her cameras, algorithms, a computer. So we've given her another computer, we've upgraded the cameras, and we've upgraded the algorithms. Now she drives 3 times as fast as Curiosity could drive in this autonomous traverse mode. In fact, her average daily distance for driving, about 200 meters, is close to the maximum distance any rover has ever driven in a day on Mars. So she's fast. Another thing that we've done, which is the most significant upgrade that we've made, is the sample caching system itself. Curiosity has a robotic arm, like Perseverance has a robotic arm, but on the end of Perseverance's robotic arm is a coring drill that will go and take rock cores, transfer them into sample tubes and into the rover, where another robotic arm will take those tubes, will seal them and store them, and eventually drop them on the surface of Mars for future return to Earth.
Great. And we also have a social media question about Perseverance. Erica AS on Instagram wants to know what the wheels of the rover are made out of.
Great question. Well, you may think we make them out of some material you've never heard of. It turns out they're made of aluminum. Now, Perseverance's wheels are a little thicker than Curiosity's, but they're actually both made out of aluminum.
And one more question for you. Can you tell us more about the importance of where you are right now in the building?
Yes, I am above, on the second floor, above the cruise mission support area that you've been watching. And this is the surface mission support area. So as soon as Perseverance lands, all commands, this room will take over. It will become headquarters for operating Perseverance on Mars.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Now, we now know Perseverance's place in history. Let's take an up-close look at the rover with Mars 2020 System Testbed Engineer Elio Morillo.
Thank you, Raquel. I'm standing in front of the Mars 2020 Perseverance scaled model. As you can tell, this vehicle is about the size of a Mini Cooper. These wheels are obviously black here and they look like rubber, but they're actually fully made of metal. These wheels are designed to allow us to climb over obstacles and of course climb over hills and minimize the amount of slipping once we're traversing on the surface of Mars. Here in the front of the rover, we have the sample caching system. And of course, at the very front end of this is the robotic arm, which this entire system is arguably the most complex robotic system we've ever sent outside of Earth. Here at the tip of the arm, we have a turret which contains a suite of instruments along with some drills and coring capabilities that will allow us to do contact science once we get to the surface of Mars. Not only that, this robotic system is equipped to collect samples about the size of a piece of chalk that then eventually will be stored inside of the vehicle and dropped off in a later location so that an eventual mission can go and return these samples to Earth, something we've never done in the past. Here in the front, we have the remote sensing mast. Something of note is that this mechanism is going to be stowed upon the touchdown on the surface of Mars. And one of the first critical activities we do is deploy this mechanism. This mechanism includes several cameras that are going to give us some of the most breathtaking images we've ever taken on Mars. Along with that, we have some lasers as well as a spectrometer. They're going to allow us to do some remote science. Here you see some of these extrusions that are part of the larger weather suite of instruments that will allow us to characterize the local climate around Perseverance. So that's a quick tour of the rover, but I gotta get back to work. So back to you.
Okay, welcome back. Or hello, wonderful person, if you're just joining in. So this was actually a pretty cool demonstration. They kind of showed us the size of the rover. It is pretty big. It's a huge thing that they're landing on Mars. It's basically the size of a small car. And one thing that someone was asking me is how will they store or return the samples? So the storing part is... Do I still have that picture somewhere, maybe? The storing part is going to be done... where is it? I remember seeing it somewhere. I just don't remember exactly what part it was. But basically, it's going to be inside the rover, but in a way that it's going to be accessible from the outside. I'll probably, when I do the follow-up video on all of this, I'll make sure to point out where it is. I don't see it here. Yeah, definitely not seeing it on this picture. But yeah, so the samples that are going to be collected are going to be stored inside the rover, protected from the outside, obviously, mostly because of the radiation. And eventually, when the next mission comes, which is planned for like 2030 or something, to Mars, it's going to approach the rover and retrieve them physically from the rover, and then use the return capsule to launch it back to space and then come back to Earth. We're still not sure how all of this is going to be done. Like I said, it's basically 10 years in the future. But the point of this mission was that it was going to be a two-part mission to begin with, which is why it was going to be so expensive. So, you have this first mission that's going to do all the exploration, all the analysis, all of the science. Second mission comes in, picks up the final analysis part, and brings it back to the planet, to our planet, to Earth. And, we do the analysis on Earth. So that's why this mission is going to be exciting. I guess the question here is, are we going to have money in 10 years to send the mission there? And that's obviously something that we're not going to be able to answer just yet. So anyway, so that's kind of the mission in a nutshell so far. One thing I wanted to mention is there's going to be videos about this in the next week. But there's a few things that were discovered on Mars or about Mars in the last few weeks, mostly because of this mission and the excitement around it. A lot of studies started to come out about Mars. And one of the cool studies just recently discovered that, well, apparently you can actually put the cyanobacteria from planet Earth, the organisms that are responsible for producing a lot of oxygen and that right now you're breathing as well. Let me make sure that I don't get copyright claim on this later. Which one here is good enough? So the cyanobacteria in general is a pretty exciting organism, but these things here, if you put them in sort of Mars-ish conditions with just a little bit more pressure, they can, and also give them the Martian regolith, the Martian dirt. You give them the CO2 and nitrogen present in the atmosphere as well. They can actually survive and even thrive in those conditions. And this was a huge discovery, and there's going to be a video about this, I think in a couple of days maybe. But yeah, it means that we can hypothetically create just a sort of simplified version of Earth conditions. And as long as there's water, obviously, we can then grow cyanobacteria and produce oxygen and also nutrients needed for other things. So there's a big discovery. Okay, so Joey S is asking me to please acknowledge the fact that this spacecraft looks like a giant pie flying toward Mars face. That's a good one, Joey. I kind of appreciate this kind of humor. It's definitely, let's look at it together. It totally looks like a giant pie flying toward a Martian face. Yeah, that's pretty much what NASA was trying to do for the past few years, spending billions of dollars. I would totally go along with this, by the way. Anyway, despite the cheesiness of the last comment, from me that is, not from Joey, well, there was another discovery. Oh yeah, the other discovery on Mars was that we know that it had a lot of ice ages now. There's several patterns showing that there were consistent ice ages throughout the period, and that the climate on the surface in most parts was very similar to the climate on Iceland. So if you ever go to Iceland, or if you are there now, basically you're kind of on ancient Mars. Go outside and pretend you're on Mars. Zulu says, it's fun to see me alive. Thank you for adding my trusted voice to the experience. No, thank you. Thank you for the donation. I really appreciate it. Okay, so so there's a lot of really cool discoveries. I'm going to try to talk about them next week. Basically, most of the week is going to be dedicated to Mars. And we also are going to come back and talk about the Chinese mission, which is going to be happening sometimes in March. So we have about a month before they land. But with the Chinese mission, it's unlikely to be obviously broadcasted. There's going to be almost no information. Oops, I just bumped into my microphone. My apologies. There's going to be almost no information given to us until the landing. And if they fail, it's very likely they're going to try to basically pretend it kind of didn't happen, or that the mission was still a success in some way. This is my biggest problem with the way that the Communist China currently is dealing with scientific discoveries is that if it's a great discovery, they're going to make sure you know. If it's a bad discovery, they're going to make sure that nobody knows. And that's a wrong approach to science, because you want to learn from your mistakes. Unfortunately, like for example, when the lunar mission failed a few years ago, their first lunar mission crashed on Mars, they gave so little notification, or really they provided so little information about it that a lot of the journalists had to kind of dig out the information, try to figure out what happened. And that's not really a good approach for scientists and for engineers, because you really want to learn from your mistakes. That's why I really appreciate what SpaceX does, because they literally want to make as many mistakes as possible and learn from every single one of them. Something that a lot of organizations would not be able to do. But yeah, so in that sense, SpaceX is definitely ahead of the game. Oh, Edward is saying I missed his first question. Can you write the question now? I don't think I can see the other chats anymore. I'm so sorry I missed your question. If you can type it in the comments, that'd be great. But yeah. Oh wow, NASA stream currently has like 1 million people watching it. That's really awesome. I don't think I've ever seen a NASA stream with that many viewers before. That is a huge achievement for the space in general, and also for scientists around the world. Yeah, someone's mentioned, why am I bringing politics into chat? I'm sorry if it came out political. It's actually not. It's nothing to do with the fact that, you know, China is communist or the way that China does things. It's just the way that they approach science in general. And I know this from personal experience, because I used to work with a lot of Chinese scientists. I used to actually, a lot of my friends live in Beijing. And in that sense, it was very difficult to communicate when it comes to mistakes and problems. They never want to tell you when it's a problem because of how it's perceived and how it's seen in the culture. And it's just unfortunately not something I agree with as someone who communicates science on a daily basis. You have to talk about mistakes. You absolutely have to bring up your errors. And as a matter of fact, I encourage people to make mistakes. Even when I teach in class, I tell people mistakes are everything. You have to learn from them. And most importantly, I myself have made so many mistakes in my previous videos in so many years of making the videos. And I always leave them there for people to see, because it's important to see how you learn as well, how you advance as a person, and that you are not perfect. So if someone makes a mistake, I actually encourage them to kind of love it and to accept it, which is once again why I think SpaceX is doing a great job with how they're progressing their program. Okay, so White Night Prod is asking me, realistic timeline for transforming Mars to the extent of having some form of vegetation. Oh, that's not even possible to imagine right now. I would say a few tens of thousands of years, maybe. At least if we involve bacteria and cyanobacteria. I honestly don't think it will be possible for a very long time, unless we suddenly bring in some sort of a really heavy industry that sort of starts exposing a lot of let's say oxygen and whatever, but we don't have any technology that does that just yet. So we're still far from it. At least I would say 1,000 years. Liam Roberts is saying that he was inspired to learn more about space and the universe, and is thanking me. Oh no, thank you for learning. I mean, the whole point of being a teacher is you help people learn, right? And that's my career technically. So you're basically are not thanking me for you're thanking me for doing my job good. So that's there's nothing to thank me about. As some of you know, I still actually teach, but very part-time. Because of COVID situation, I actually in the last year I haven't really done any teaching full-time, and I still get some classes here and there, but it's far from being full-time. And because of this, I really have to dedicate a lot more time on YouTube now, and try to do my best with YouTube. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm so sorry, Edward. Here we go. My thoughts on life on Mars in the deep chasms that could potentially have collected atmosphere. So I actually think, well, so first of all, with life on Mars, I'm a strong believer that it's still there, but obviously this is a belief based on no actual facts, just a hunch. But it's definitely in most likely underground lakes. We know that there are lakes, a lot of lakes underground. We found a lot of them. There was a video about this a few years ago. And those lakes have a very high chance of storing life, just like they store life here in Antarctica. And because of this, I truly believe that if we were to drill down there, we would find just as much crazy stuff there as we would find here on planet Earth. Let me actually show you. I wanted to show you this video that was recently released. I think it was a video by a team drilling in Antarctica, and they discovered they basically discovered life where they kind of didn't think it was possible, but they found it nevertheless. I'm gonna see if I can find an actual video. I should have picked it. Should have looked for it before. No. All right. I don't think I can find it right away. Antarctica ice video. Is that gonna help us? No. Anyway, so it's a video of, I'll try to explain it. It's a video of a camera going down into the ice hole, and it's like 2 kilometers underneath. And basically, as it sort of approaches the water underneath, I think they either lose the camera or something happens to it, and it kind of bounces off, flips over, and kind of points at this rock. And on top of this rock, they see a tremendous amount of simple life, like all kinds of strings and all kinds of bacteria growing. And I guess the scientist who saw this, his mind must have been blown, because it's a huge discovery. It's like, how is that even possible for life to exist in such extreme conditions? Life that has never been touched by anything for like possibly 1 million years. And so in that sense, it's pretty exciting. And because of this, I believe Mars most likely has something similar, but we don't know until we go and until we drill down and look into it. Anyway, long story short, life is probably there, but we don't know. Cool. Oh, so there's a filter for Firefox I can use. So for next time, I'm going to set up a little bit better. I definitely have to figure out how to add moderators as well, because I haven't done this in so long. I totally forgot how to do all of this. And yeah, definitely will add this to some of the future videos. Mike Locke says his name is on the rover that's landing. Yeah, mine too. So in that sense, awesome. And some people ask him for more live streams. Like I mentioned, I'll try to do more. I just have to do the setup a little bit better. I'm still kind of not particularly that good at streaming. A little bit better at making videos, but still learning. Okay. Thank you so much for all of your donations, by the way. Willie Lago says, love your videos. Thank you for doing them. Hope the year goes great for you and everyone else. Same to you. I actually sincerely wish that all of you have an amazing 2021. Hopefully it goes much better than last year. And, you know, most importantly, I really hope that a lot of you overcome any challenges you had last year, because it was a tough year for everyone. It's probably going to be a tough year this year as well, maybe, because we know that, you know, for example, economic situation hasn't really improved that much, but we can pull through. That's why this rover is so important too, because, you know, the name Perseverance is very symbolic for specifically these reasons. You know, this year especially, we need something like that. We need to persevere along with the rover. So it better not crash. It better land safely. Garrett Martin is asking me, can I talk more about the rover, helicopter and the rover, and what kind of science will it do? So let's go through this one more time. Where is it? I had the picture. The helicopter. This is mostly for those of you who are just joining in. Let's go through this very quickly. Because there's really not that much to talk about, to be honest. It's a really cool tool. It's an amazing piece of technology. It was tested many times in the lab, simulating the Martian atmosphere with the blade spinning really fast. But its only purpose is to test the ability of helicopters on Mars. It doesn't really have any other specific reason. It only has one camera on it. It's going to fly up above the ground, take some pictures, possibly transmit those locations for, you know, future explorations to the mission control that can then choose the location for the rover to go and visit. But other than the camera, and other than just basically flying around a little bit, it has no other functional purpose. So it's a really cool but very expensive experiment. And honestly, I am really happy that they did this, because first of all, it excites your imagination. Second of all, you know, most people would think that you cannot really fly a helicopter on Mars because the atmosphere is only 1% the pressure of atmospheric pressure on Earth. But yeah, it's still cool. I think it's still cool. Okay, so yeah, a lot of people are asking for more streams. I definitely promise to come up with a better streaming schedule. We'll see how it goes. I'll probably be streaming more games though, and specifically some of the space games I've been meaning to play for a long time. But also we'll do some other stuff. We'll talk about science and answer some questions. Cool. Okay, need to catch up to some comments here. Okay. If we find life on Mars, wouldn't that result in the end plans of colonization? So that's actually a great question, because when you think about it, we do have a scientific concept of preservation of life and preservation of the biosphere and structure of the biosphere. We don't want to disturb certain biospheres too much. Like, for example, one of the reasons that Cassini probe was originally meant to crash into the Saturn's atmosphere, Cassini probe crashing, was because we didn't want it to contaminate the potential life on Titan. So right here we have our final moments of Cassini. So this was when it deorbited it basically decreased its orbit around Saturn and then crashed. Oh wait, that's Titan. Sorry, wrong mission. Here we go. And then it burned up in the atmosphere. So all of this was done for one single purpose: not to contaminate the conditions on Titan, not to contaminate conditions on potential other moons, because we don't know if life from Earth is going to settle there and then create all sorts of problems for potential life that's already there. So that's a great question. If we find life there, it's going to create a lot of dialogue, a lot of discussion, a lot of potential concerns for us and other life going there, because it's going to create a potential catastrophe for any life that's already there. If we bring our super advanced bacteria from our bodies, in your body, as you probably have seen in one of the previous videos, you have 38 trillion different cells of bacteria. If we bring all of this, even one single astronaut brings all of this to Mars that may already have life, that's a huge problem. That basically means that you don't know what's going to happen. You might destroy any life that's already there, and you might create a lot of problems. But we don't know what's going to happen. If we find life, then it's going to create dialogue. If we don't find life, then we're going to keep looking. Okay, Tori Beck is asking me to tell his son that he doesn't have to study for school at all, as long as... Okay, Ulfor, your dad is telling you that you don't have to study for school if you're watching my channel. I do not agree with him, though, entirely, because you still should do a little bit of school. School is good for you, at least that's, until a certain point. I have my problems with certain schooling. Like, for example, last years of high school, I taught last few years of high school for about 8 years in total. I don't agree with a lot of curriculum nowadays, and I definitely think it's detrimental to most of the knowledge that you learn, most of the skills you acquire. But that's just my opinion. Definitely go to school, though. Don't listen to your dad. Do some schooling. Okay, some more questions here. Let's see. Have I read... okay, DJ Koenig is asking me, have I read 2001 Night's sci-fi manga? I unfortunately don't read manga anymore, or really comic books. I think I stopped like 20 years ago, and I wasn't really a very good reader, mostly because all of my reading is usually done through shorter articles, through shorter pieces. I have a trouble focusing on too long. I have this strange mental condition that actually resulted in me failing a lot of classes when I was younger as well, that I just have trouble reading if it's too long, and I eventually just phase out and I can't continue. There's a lot of conditions I have, by the way. One of the biggest ones is the obsessive compulsive disorder. So OCD is actually really big with a lot of people. Mine has caused me to drop out of school once, and so there's that. Anyway, James George, hey Anton, you've made my year so much better. Such an exciting day. Do you think future missions will continue to use the sky crane landing method? I definitely think so, because we know it works and because we know how to do it now, and mostly because it's one of the safer methods. The previous methods used all resulted in failure, unfortunately, so it does seem to be a much safer bet for a very thin atmosphere planet with very rugged terrain. That's what it works best for. Okay, oh, basically, Darren, thank you so much for the donation. I look forward to your videos every day. Ever consider doing interviews? I have, and people have asked me to do them, but the issue that I currently have with the interviews is time zone is one. Like right now it's, what is it? 5:30 a.m. right for me. That's right, 5:30 a.m. And unfortunately, I cannot really do that every day. It's hard. Also, on the other hand, interviews require a lot of planning and traveling, and it requires a completely different mindset, and I haven't really acquired that yet. I think I'm much better at presenting information and at being the interviewed, in a sense, than interviewee. So there's so many people on YouTube that do this so much better. So many different channels that do a much better job. The one I can think of is the Event Horizon. Big shout out to that channel. He's been doing an amazing job with scientific interviews. But other than that, I'm not sure yet. Maybe we'll try one day. It's a good skill to learn, but we don't know. Maybe if someone wants to get interviewed, let me know. Can Percy detect oxygen? Oh, wait, come back. Okay, Edwin is asking me, Edwin Legaspi is asking, can Perseverance detect oxygen, methane, or underground water? That is actually a great question. Maybe, wait, what is he talking about? 1 second.
But soon after that, it won't be very long before we'll be able to hear more ones and zeros coming from the spacecraft. So this is a really exciting time, and it's just important to remind people this is there's a lot that can go wrong in a day like today. There are thousands of things that have to go right.
Okay, so we're not there yet. We can take a look at the... To be honest, I don't remember. That's the honest answer. I don't remember what it can detect. I know the SuperCam can detect pretty much anything, but that's not going to help us with the atmosphere. And I know it has the pressure sensor here that does measure certain things about the atmosphere, but I don't exactly remember what type of gases it can detect. I'll make sure to follow this up in a future video, though. I would say that it's probably yes, because I mean those are such obvious gases to look for. So my guess is yes, but don't quote me on that. I'm sorry, I don't really know the answer. Okay, someone is asking me to play Stationeers, very good space game. I've tried it a few times, but I think because it wasn't really hard science, I didn't really get into it. I really like Kerbal Space Program so much more, mostly because it has all of the physics and you have to do a little bit of math to get good at it. But I tried it a few times, maybe in the future. Anyway, thank you so much for all of your donations. Thank you for all of your wonderful comments. Have I played No Man's Skies? Of course I have. I even played it on the channel like a few years ago. I think I started it, and then like other videos that early videos on the channel, I never really got to finish it, mostly because eventually I just transitioned into more science stuff than game stuff. Okay. Okay, so someone is asking me... Okay, someone says, I don't have any money, but I want to ask a question. What is your favorite alternative science view in relation to space? Not necessarily something you believe, but you find interesting. I mean, one that comes to mind is the idea known as the modified gravity, MOND as it's known. And it became, it was trending a few weeks ago. MOND is basically the theory that tries to explain dark matter without using the dark matter. Oh, my camera. My camera got disabled. Here we go. I'm back. Oof. All right. Yeah, so it's this. Modified Newtonian dynamics. I don't personally really think it explains a lot. I've looked into it so many times. It has so many problems in it. Not going to mention all of them here, but it was trending a few weeks ago because they possibly proved another part of this theory. But there is also... The reason I didn't cover it on the channel is because when I started to communicate with the scientists in the paper and I asked them for a lot of data because I wanted to see how they got the data, they couldn't provide it. They actually could not provide the explanation for the formula. They couldn't provide the basic ideas that were mentioned in the paper, or at least to the point where I understood what they're talking about. And one of the scientists was a little bit rude, to be honest, and I just kind of walked away from it. Just wasn't worth the time. Mostly because they didn't really discover anything that cannot be explained in other theory. So in that sense, I think MOND is a good one to look out for. In that sense, I guess, I mean, there's probably a few theories out there that are kind of interesting, but I don't really know off the top of my head the one that I would really think that's exciting. But MOND is definitely there. Okay, let's keep going. Tactical Alan. I'm looking forward to commentary with the landing of the rover. How far can this rover travel across the surface of Mars, and what is the final destination? I don't think there is a final destination, and in terms of the distance, they just installed new wheels on it to make it travel even longer than Curiosity, and I think Curiosity covered like 100 miles or something. Curiosity distance traveled. Where is the distance? Oh. Is it only 24 kilometers? I thought it was 100. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's only travels 15 miles. Okay, I was wrong. So, more than 50 miles for sure. The thing is, rovers travel really, really slow. So, because of this, obviously, well, you don't expect it to kind of drive like a car. So, if it covers 100 miles, then that's good. But the thing is, it's also going to be mostly staying probably inside the crater because it's trying to investigate the crater itself. So it's not going to go that far. But anyway, well, let's see what's happening.
We are currently 12.5 minutes from entry interface. We are coming upon cruise stage separation in 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
What's happening now, Rob?
Okay, well, we're just waiting. The rover is completely in charge. It's doing all the things we've taught it how to do. It's all built into the software. We've tested it over and over and over again. This team has spent 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, testing this thing for years, and so this is really the culmination of all that work. So this vehicle is getting ready to push that cruise stage away. Once it gets pushed away, the entry system with the rover inside, with the rover still in charge, is going to get ready to take the vehicle, turn it to the right orientation, and aim it to Mars, and prepare for entering the atmosphere. This won't be long. Be prepared for this event.
We're about 1.5 minutes from cruise stage separation, about 11 minutes, 20 seconds from entry interface.
Okay, so it's about 10 minutes from cruise stage separation till it...
Okay, so really quickly, let's just watch this. I'm going to come back after this is done. This is going to be about 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Let's see what happens. This is super exciting, kind of stressful, but I'm kind of curious what's going to happen now. All right, here we go.
Broadcasting tones. These tones are received directly from Perseverance, but have very limited information content. We won't receive real-time information until about 9-10 minutes from now, once the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter starts relaying information from Perseverance. We are under 1 minute from cruise stage separation, about 10.5 minutes from entry interface.
It's getting exciting. I have to admit, I am quite anxious, but very hopeful that this machine is going to do what we asked it to do.
We're seeing the heartbeat tones.
Okay, that means that there's no more ones and zeros coming. It's just the vehicle telling us it's still alive.
We're continuing to receive tones from Perseverance, standing by for cruise stage separation. We have indication that cruise stage separation has been confirmed by the spacecraft.
We're off on a good start.
In about 1 minute, Perseverance's landing software will wake up and begin the final preparations for entry. The first action it will do is to fire warm-up pulses with its entry thrusters. These pulses ensure that the spacecraft gets the thrust that it wants during entry interface. We're about 9 minutes from entry interface.
Okay, so now the vehicle's on its own. It's turning itself into the direction of facing the heat shield toward Mars, and will eventually hitting the top of the atmosphere. We're not far away. This is going to go very quickly from here on out.
That's confirmation that we got shadowed by the cruise stage as it passed through our beam to the Earth.
telecom indicated actually that we could see a signal that the cruise stage went between the Perseverance entry capsule and Earth. So we saw a little blip, the data stream indicating the cruise stage separation. We have confirmation that the vehicle has started warming up those entry thrusters. Warm-up pulses have begun. At this point, the spacecraft is trying to stop its spin from the cruise 2 revolutions per minute down to 0, and then will turn to its desired orientation from entry. It will separate the 2 balance masses that have kept it balanced during all of cruise. This will allow the entry capsule to have lift when it enters the atmosphere. We have confirmation that the spacecraft has turned to the desired entry attitude. We're about 7.5 minutes from entry interface.
Okay, the vehicle is pointed in the right direction. The thrusters are warmed up and doing their job. And now we've spun down from the 2 revolutions per minute that the vehicle had the whole way to Mars. It's a spin-stabilized spacecraft. And then from here on out, it's going to just be a bullet, and it's going to control its orientation and attitude via rockets on the back of that back shell.
Points carrier lock. The DTE from Radio Science from Greenbank reports carrier lock. You see the carrier on the downlink.
Flight level 1.
We are continuing to wait for entry interface. We're about 6 minutes and 45 seconds from entry interface. We have confirmation from Greenback that they are receiving direct-to-Earth telemetry via that path. The spacecraft Perseverance is currently transmitting heartbeat tones. These tones indicate that Perseverance is operating normally and has nothing significant to report. This is as expected. We're currently just over 6 minutes from entry interface.
Okay, and now we wait. As soon as we get to the top of the atmosphere, it will be very quickly, which is the entry point. It won't be very long before the atmosphere will start getting thicker and thicker. It's going very quickly at a fairly steep angle of 15 degrees into the atmosphere, and as it starts to slow down.
We're just under, we're about 5.5 minutes from entry interface. We're still receiving heartbeat tones. We expect to continue receiving heartbeat tones until about 5 minutes after entry. At that time, Perseverance will be no longer in view of our antennas here on Earth. About 90 seconds prior to entry, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter should begin receiving telemetry from Perseverance and streaming it to Earth in near real time. There are a few expected short outages, such as when we have a plasma blackout or when we enter the peak heating phase. Aside from these outages caused by the plasma blackout, antenna switching, or high dynamic events, spacecraft events, we should have telemetry until about 90 seconds after landing. A plasma blackout is when the signal from Perseverance isn't strong enough to make it through the superheated, super fast air flowing around the spacecraft all the way down to Earth. Once the temperature drops below that peak heating, we do reacquire the signal from Perseverance. We are currently about 4.5 minutes from entry interface. Perseverance continues to report heartbeat tones, indicating everything is nominal.
Okay, what we're looking for now is Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter should be in view soon of our vehicle and be able to listen to ones and zeros coming from a separate radio that's really designed to talk between spacecraft.
MRO reports the electro radio is powered on, ready to receive signals from the lander.
Okay, MRO is ready and able and waiting for to hear from our rover.
Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has reported that it's ready to receive the signals from Perseverance. It should be in a few minutes here. We're just
Flight level 1
from entry interface.
We don't need these 1 to 0s, as Swati said, but land safely, but we really need it for our own health and well-being today to keep our nerves under control. But
around this time, a second spacecraft, MAVEN, should begin picking up telemetry from Perseverance and will continue to record that telemetry until several minutes post-landing. We won't get that data for several hours after landing as it's being recorded and then will be forwarded to Earth later. We are continuing to receive heartbeat tones, indicating that everything is nominal. We're currently at about 3 minutes until entry interface.
Okay. Very soon we'll be getting ones and zeros, I hope, from our radio on the rover. The entry interface is nothing more than just an arbitrary place in the sky that we've defined to be above the atmosphere. But from that point on, there's definitely atmosphere, and above it there isn't.
We are 2 minutes from entry interface. Perseverance is to transmit heartbeat tones, indicating everything is nominal.
So the tones can tell us whether something's bad or not is happening. So far the heartbeat is doing well. So the vehicle thinks it's in good shape to land, which is a great sign.
We're just under 2 minutes from entry interface. As it gets closer to Mars, Perseverance is actually being pulled in by gravity and accelerating. By the time Perseverance reaches entry interface point, she should be going just under 5.4 kilometers per second. We're at about 90 seconds from entry interface and standing by for Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter to pick up the telemetry. We are 1 minute from entry interface.
MROs are in receive mode.
We have confirmation that the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter is now relaying data from Perseverance. We're about 30 seconds from entry interface. Perseverance is going about 5.2 kilometers per second and is about 190 kilometers altitude above the surface of Mars.
Confirm UHF data flow.
About seconds from entry interface. 5.3 kilometers per second and an altitude of 150 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have confirmation of entry interface. Perseverance is currently going 5.3 kilometers per second at an altitude of about 120 kilometers from the surface of Mars. The spacecraft is now waiting until it begins feeling the atmosphere of Mars slow it down. Once there is enough atmosphere, it will start controlling its path to the landing target. Navigation is also confirming that we can see a little bit of that slowdown of the atmosphere on the Perseverance entry capsule. Our current velocity is about 5.36 kilometers per second and an altitude of about 67 kilometers from the surface.
We are probably seeing MRO plasma blackout at this point.
vehicle should be doing its turns right now.
MRO has lost lock.
Perseverance. We have indications that Perseverance is now performing bank reversals in the atmosphere. These are the steps in order to control its distance to the landing target. Perseverance has just passed through the point of maximum deceleration and has indicated that it felt approximately 10 Earth Gs of deceleration.
MRO has lock again.
We saw a small outage of the UHF telemetry from Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter during that peak heating phase, likely caused by the plasma blackout. Perseverance is still continuing to perform bank reversals in the atmosphere to control its distance to the landing target. Perseverance is going about 1 kilometers per second at an altitude of about 16 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have entered heading alignment, which means Perseverance is no longer trying to control the distance to Mars, but to the target on Mars, but instead is flying straight to the target.
Parachute.
Our current velocity is about 550 meters per second at an altitude of about 15 kilometers from the surface.
MRO is reporting good telemetry log.
We are coming upon the straighten up. We are starting the straighten up and fly right maneuver, where the spacecraft will jettison the entry balance masses in preparation for parachute deploy and to roll over to give the radar a better look at the ground.
Yes, yes, yes.
The navigation has confirmed that the parachute has deployed, and we are seeing significant deceleration in the velocity. Our current velocity is 440 meters per second at an altitude of about 12 kilometers from the surface of Mars. Perseverance is now slowed to subsonic speeds, and the heat shield has been separated. This allows both the radar and the cameras to get their first look at the surface. Current velocity is 145 meters per second at an altitude of about 9.5 kilometers above the surface.
Yes, yes, yes.
Perseverance now has radar lock on the ground. Current velocity is about 100 meters per second, 6.6 kilometers of the surface. Perseverance is continuing to descend on the parachute. We are coming up on the initialization of terrain relative navigation and subsequently the priming of the landing engines. Our current velocity is about 90 meters per second at an altitude of 4.2 kilometers.
Almost there.
We have confirmation that the lander vision system has produced a valid solution and part of terrain relative navigation. We have timing of the landing engines. Current velocity is 83 meters per second at about 2.6 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have confirmation that the back shell has separated. We are currently performing the divert maneuver. Current velocity is about 75 meters per second at an altitude of about a kilometer off the surface of Mars.
TRN Safety Bravo.
We have completed our terrain relative navigation. Current speed is about 30 meters per second, altitude of about 300 meters off the surface of Mars. We have started our constant velocity accordion, which means we are conducting the sky crane, about to conduct the sky crane maneuver.
We've lost direct to Earth tones.
As expected. As expected.
Sky crane maneuver has started, about 20 meters off the surface.
We're getting signals from MRO.
UHF is good.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the sands of past life. At this point, the descent stage has flown away to a safe distance. Perseverance is continuing to transmit direct through Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter to Earth.
Oh my God. Oh.
All right, so great news. We are now on Mars. Well, not us.
Still getting
NASA.
telemetry from the lander.
Let me actually volume this down a little bit. This was super stressful for all of them. Actually, no, I'm not gonna interrupt them. Let's see what they have to say.
This is so exciting.
I'm gonna turn this on.
The team is beside themselves. It's so surreal. Stay tuned. We might get some pictures.
Amazing. Great news. It's just amazing. Super exciting.
So much has been riding on this.
You can hear how relieved they are. It's pretty insane.
We just heard the news that Perseverance is alive on the surface of Mars.
It's not
Flight.
Okay, so let's come back to this in a few seconds. How is our Perseverance doing here? Oh, this is the inside the NASA's eyes. It's inside Mars now. Very good. Super exciting. Honestly, knowing how well this mission was planned and how extremely over-prepared NASA was for this, not surprised. Like, honestly, just there's not even a chance now that NASA can fail with these missions because of what they know about the technology, the techniques used, and so on. So very impressive, nevertheless. It's definitely great news. So now we have another rover on Mars, the most advanced rover. And now begins the next stage. They're going to start testing all of the instruments. They're going to obviously test the that helicopter at some point. And
Take a look at the first image.
oh, first image. Yes. Please show us the first image.
I have the target point on the map when you are ready. We are ready, OL3.
Super exciting.
Go for it.
Okay. Let's wait for it. Okay. I kind of missed a few questions. I'm going to answer them in a few seconds.
Flight, I'll be moving in, showing you the safe zone that we've landed in.
That's awesome. One of the viewers here is saying his father is at GPL right now.
Put the first image from
He must be
Perseverance
super
on the
excited
surface
about
of
this.
Mars. Now it comes from the engineering cameras, known as the hazard camera. This camera is mainly used to help the rover drive safely around Mars.
Amazing, there we
and
go.
We will get higher resolution photos later in the day.
There is your first image. Awesome. Wow, perfect landing. All right, so a few things to mention here before I guess I finish the stream. There was actually a few questions I didn't get to answer. I'm going to answer them right now. And one of the things I totally forgot to mention is that everything we were just watching, like everything that you saw on the stream and so on, despite the lag between YouTube and all, was actually 20 minutes behind, approximately. It has already happened, and because, you know, it takes time for the light, for the information to reach us from Mars, we get the information that's already happened. So the probe was already there 20 minutes ago. It was already, I mean, if you were to think about this from sort of a space-time objective perspective, where everything is happening at the same time, because of the time delay, we are seeing the images that have already happened in the past. But that's just something, a small tidbit that I forgot to mention. One of the questions someone was asking me is in regards to, this was actually from Philippe Mercier Fortin.
Second image in.
Oh, we have another image.
Is in.
Okay, these we have a camera in the front and rear of the spacecraft. They're near the ground, so these are pretty close. You can see the wheels there. And they're a little dirty because we've got glass covers over these cameras, but we took these seconds after landing, so there's still dust in the air from our landing event. So this is happening. You know, this happened just seconds ago. Just
awesome.
arrived, and this is really amazing.
Another second picture, amazing picture.
We even know where we landed. This is the most amazing thing. The vehicle has told us where it's landed because it figured it out. You know, this is a sign. NASA works. NASA works. And when we put our arms together and our hands together and our brains together, we can succeed. This is what NASA does. This is what we can do as a country on all of the problems we have. We need to work together to do these kinds of things and make success happen.
All right. On that note, I'll wait for them to maybe show us another picture. So anyway, so yeah, one of the questions was, you know, if there's high winds and the helicopter tips over during, if it's too windy during its flight, what would happen? Well, I guess one of the things about Martian winds is that, unlike movies show us, they're not really that powerful. I mean, the pressure is very, very low, and so it shouldn't really affect the helicopter very much. Even if there's a dust storm, it should technically be okay with it. The problem with dust storms is that they usually cover the solar panels, and then the probe has a trouble operating afterwards. But this probe doesn't have solar panels. It operates via the RTG, via the nuclear power. It uses plutonium to basically produce energy. And so in that sense, it should be okay. But we're not sure yet if it affects anything, but I'm sure this will be one of the tests in the future. The other question I missed was from who was it from? I didn't copy the name. It was actually a question on the so-called labeled release experiment that was conducted by the Viking probe like 40 years ago. The experiment in a nutshell was that, you know, the scientists tried to see if there's metabolism on Mars, and they basically took a bunch of samples and they tried to see if you take the Martian regolith and you give it all the nutrients, is it going to produce metabolic reactions like you expect if there's life? And the results were kind of mixed. It seemed like there was a positive result suggesting that there's maybe bacteria, but at the same time, it wasn't conclusive enough. So this is where we go back to the whole point Carl Sagan was making. You know, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And so the evidence was just not there, but it was a very interesting result. So because of this, there is a speculation that maybe there is actually life in Martian rock already. And so this mission will hopefully figure this out, help us figure this out. Was there something else? Did I miss anything else? I think I did not miss anything else. Okay. What else? So great, definitely great news. I mean, there's really nothing else for us to do now. Just wait until NASA releases. They're going to release a high definition video soon of the landing, of everything. Remember, this probe had a microphone and a high definition camera on board. So we'll actually, for the first time, really get to see what it looks like to descend into the Martian atmosphere, how to, you know, go, how it looks to go through the Martian atmosphere, how it looks like to land there. I don't know what exactly it's going to look like yet, but hopefully we'll see in the next few days. And the other thing that are going to be releasing is, of course, more pictures, which are going to be very exciting. And most importantly, we'll get to see if everything works. They'll start testing their instruments. And the instruments will probably take a few days to test. So the most important ones, like the X-ray analysis, the UV analysis, stuff like that, the stuff that's very technical is probably going to take a little bit to test. Okay, what else do we have? Cool, very cool, very cool. Will I be streaming the Tianwen 1 as well? So it's supposed to happen next month. Unfortunately, however, I don't know if I haven't heard anything from the Chinese Space Agency on them planning to stream it. The Chinese Space Agency operates very differently. It's very secretive. It doesn't really release all of the details until the mission is successful. A lot of the mentality there is kind of image oriented. They want to, you know, it's very political in a sense. They want to portray the way that they do science as better than the way that NASA does science. And so because of this, I don't know if there's going to be anything to show. We might see final results, or if it unfortunately crashes, we might see nothing. So we're not going to know. I do have a few people I know in Beijing that work in science communities, and even they don't know. So that's how little people know, unless they're really sort of within the space agency or work close to the government. But even those people are not allowed to say anything. It's very, very secretive. Very unfortunate. Like I mentioned previously, I don't agree particularly with that, because you don't help yourself develop better, you know, by sharing information, by working through your mistakes and errors, and by learning from your mistakes with others. You actually learn much better than just by doing it secretively and avoiding looking bad, in a sense. You know, looking bad for Chinese government has always been sort of their main concern. Okay, cool. So let's see if there's any other additional things that might be presented.
Which happens in the morning. And so we will be working around the clock, making sure that Perseverance is healthy, and we will begin this exciting adventure.
And can you tell me, what's it like living on Mars time?
It's a little bit like constantly, you know, flying and changing your time zone. The rover, you know, on Earth, the rover wakes up at the same time every day, but on Earth, that's 40 minutes later. So the team is going to be shifting our work schedule by 40 minutes as we come into work over the next few weeks. So it'll be exciting, and some late nights, but we're also excited, and we can't wait.
It's a whole new lifestyle.
Yes.
We also have a student question for you. This is Sophia's video.
Hi, my name is Sophia Lopez, and my question for NASA is, how's Perseverance gonna survive? And here's a drawing that I made from Perseverance thinking about Earth. Thank you.
Okay, that was too cute.
Well, Sophia, Perseverance survives with a power source that charges its batteries overnight while it sleeps, and it keeps heaters on so that all of our critical electronics can stay warm, as well as our mechanism. But it's really survived by the team that performs the health and safety assessments every day and communicates with the rover and makes sure that she's doing okay.
Well, thanks for your time, Jessica, and good luck living on Mars time.
Thank you. Should be fun.
If in case you didn't know, Mars is about like half an hour-ish, has half an hour more daylight, or day in general, than Earth does. The single day there is about 24.5 hours. And so scientists working with Mars usually have to have a different sleeping schedule, because the day always kind of does not coincide with the day on Earth. And because of this, a lot of the scientists, I bet, have sleeping problems. I would be actually great at this, because I have sleeping problems where my sleep kind of gets desynchronized as well. So in some sense, I guess I have Martian sleeping schedule in me, completely by accident. Anyway, so I mean, for now, we're not going to know much else about the mission. Great success, great news, amazing stream, great success for NASA. They had over 2 million what is it called? Consecutive viewers. Is that what it? Concurrent viewers. That's right, concurrent viewers. And it's just a sign that, you know, people are definitely interested in science and space missions, and we can't just give up on them. And like one of the scientists was saying before, we cannot just stop funding for these programs. These are essential for us as, you know, as dreamers, as people that want to achieve more and to go further and to try harder things. You know, without a space program, without actual program that pushes our boundaries, it will be almost impossible for us to get anywhere. I mean, if you look at there's so many examples of countries I can think of where, you know, the mentality and the entire structure of the country changes so much for the negative, actually, for the worse, when you don't have these dreams and these ideas that might be expensive, but ideas that you kind of hope to achieve as a community. And unfortunately, NASA has been losing a lot of funding, but I hope it reverses. Maybe this administration will actually give it, for the first time, more money. We don't know if that's going to happen. All of the previous administrations for the past few decades have been slowly cutting the funding off. And that's very sad, actually. It just means that, you know, we would rather spend money on other things that are honestly not as essential as this idea of dreaming big and achieving things. Anyway, so that's cool. I guess for now, I'm going to possibly pause this here. Unfortunately, there's not going to be a video today, mostly because I just don't have enough time to post it now. And there's going to be another video tomorrow that's going to teach you a little bit about something else. And on that note, well, thank you so much for all of your support, and really for just being here, for watching this with me, for sharing this experience. I'm super excited to possibly talk about this again in some of the future videos as well. But most importantly, I'll make sure to, you know, have another stream coming up sometime soon, once I figure out the whole chat thing and the microphone thing. My microphone doesn't seem to collaborate with me very good. It's a new microphone and it's not really working as I wanted it to. Lastly, once again, if you are interested in Mars and science fiction, I just wanted to pitch this very, very interesting but also somewhat cheap book that the wonderful authors. Oh wait, what? Here we go. It's an anthology. It just got published last week, and I wrote a foreword for this. If you want to check it out, it's pretty cool. It's science fiction, it's short stories. If you're into that, check it out. Otherwise, well, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for being here with me. There will be a couple of videos on Mars in the next few days, and one of them is pretty exciting. It's a pretty big discovery, although maybe not the biggest discovery. On that note, well, I'll see you in the next video, and stay wonderful, stay awesome, and, you know, don't be bad to each other. Come on. So many negative comments today. I don't want to ban people. I don't want to remove comments just because someone said something bad. But why? You know, why do you have to be mean? Anyway, thank you so much. I love you so much. And well, so long and farewell and stay wonderful. And here we go.